Heidi ho, welcome to, yes, it is the Dennis and Andy Show, the visual edition. From here on out, we're going visuals.
Wow, this is our experiment. Let's see how this goes.
This is exciting. So, if you're listening to us on iTunes and SoundCloud, all that stuff, no worries. You're going to miss a few things that we can actually show now. If you want to see the show, check out our YouTube channel, Dennis and Andy Show. And like you say, let's roll.
Let's roll.
All right. First up, well, we have to go over our fantasy football because...
Do we have to?
Well, actually, yes, because I won.
Well, we played each other. Remember from last week, we did play each other. And I'm very sad. Yes, I lost.
You ddid.
And part of it was I was gone.
You got your ass handed to you.
Yeah, all for a couple of reasons. I had my players lined up. I had the quarterback for Miami all set, lined up. My wife calls and she's like, "Hey, how come you're starting him?" And I'm like, "Well," I said, both my quarterbacks were out, so I says, "I know who I got in there." She's like, "Okay, but why aren't you starting Stafford?" And I'm like, "He's out with COVID." She goes, "No, he's not. He's healthy." I'm like, "You sure?" So she goes and looks him up. "No, he's healthy. Why aren't you starting him?" "Kind of want to see what the Miami guy's going to do." You should probably start him. And I was like, "I don't know."
Why?
And I did. I listened to her because she was like trying to be convincing while I was on the road. I was driving back.
She was trying to be supportive, you mean?
I was driving back from Wisconsin. I couldn't see anything. So, 15-hour drive. And she was trying to do the right thing. Stafford laid an egg. I listened to her. Just laid an egg. And, of course, the Miami quarterback got like 19 points. Did a phenomenal job. And then I didn't start my receiver for the Green Bay Packers, which I teetered on, and I should have. Those two players, I would have beat you. And all because I didn't just listen to my gut. Tuning out my wife from now on, but she tried to do the right thing, so... I lost, and I lost big just off those two players.
You lost 86-59.
59! I mean, I know, guys, I think Chad probably had a guy in the league that got 59 points from one player.
Wait. I like how our fantasy league does a recap, so I'm just going to read their recap. I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's long, but I like the first couple sentences. Ranking 8th in the league in points scored for the week, the Dirty Boys, that's this guy's team, were fortunate to earn a victory against an opponent that performed even worse, earning an 86-59 victory over Charlotte Trekkers.
Yep, and honestly, I couldn't perform any worse. Seriously, I don't have any of my guys that played up to the potential. I mean, granted, I am in last place. I'm 1-8. I've got my one token victory for the season. I'll be drafting first next season, the first time this has ever happened in the over decade that I've done this, but there is just no way around it.
Wait. Are you actually saying you don't think you're going to win many more games?
Doesn't matter how many I win. There aren't enough before playoffs start. Yeah. I am going to be dead last. So it's John and I right now. You squeaked up. You're in 8th place, so you're ahead of John. So in our league, the top 8 places actually get into the playoffs. We got a nice big playoff, so only the 2 schlubs wind up getting kicked out.
Yeah, but
I don't know if I've ever missed the playoffs, but I will this year.
I still have time to go down.
Oh, yes. You have a chance.
And look, this week, I'm playing against Choctaw Chick. Who's that?
That's my sister-in-law.
I'm playing against your sister-in-law, and the projected points are me 65, her 103. So I could very well slide right back down to 9.
Well, you're only 63. Well, you can adjust your players. Maybe you can get into the 70s.
I'll try. I'll see what I can do.
So we have to shift from fantasy now to our actual teams. My Packers did well. They got the win on a team that you would hope they would get a win for on it. But, they've been in a bit of a roller coaster here, so it's all good. They played like they needed to. They got the victory.
Cowboys, they lost. But
there's a but.
They lost tight. Very close game to the Steelers. The undefeated Steelers should have wiped up the arena with the Cowboys.
Yeah.
And the Cowboys came out strong, and part of it was their fourth string quarterback they started, who actually came over from that failed AA whatever football league from a few years ago.
Yep.
But he was actually drafted in the NFL in 2014. So he's been around a while. But the most exciting thing is that dude was on fire.
He was solid. He was absolutely solid.
He was drilling it in there.
I was listening to the game on my Sirius XM on the drive back, and I was like, wow, Cowboys stopped him when they needed to, and they were ahead for a lot of the game.
Yeah.
And I was like, go McCarthy, you're getting your boys to play. And then, as usual fashion this season, the Cowboys, kind of did an imitation of the New York Jets.
Oh, how dare you.
That was one of the things we
you.
talked about during the week. The Jets were 7-15 in their last 22 games, and the Cowboys are 7-15 in their last 22 games. So I did say Cowboys equals Jets. And what did you tell me, Andy?
Words hurt, Dennis.
Words hurt.
Words hurt.
That is exactly what I got from the text. Words hurt.
So we've got a bye this week. The Cowboys have a bye, so at least their record's not going to get worse. But the problem is they could literally slide into last place depending on what the rest of the division does. Because right now I believe they're third.
Yes.
So that would suck. I don't know. I mean, their season's pretty much a write-off as far as it is. I'm very excited for the quarterback and, seeing this kid play. And, my thing with names is awful. His name is something Gilbert. So
Something Gilbert. Well,
yeah.
I'm glad you're on the team, Something Gilbert.
Garrett Gilbert. I don't know. Something like that. His last name's Gilbert. I'm awful with names. I've never said I wasn't. But he looked great.
Yeah.
So you know what? I am.
Think about it. Dalton looked good. So all of your quarterbacks looked fine for being backups or backups of the backups. So that's your positive. The Packers play Jacksonville this week.
Oh, come on. Easy win. Where's that game at?
Well, I don't even know. It doesn't matter. Because it should be a game that they win.
Yeah, you mean like the Steelers?
You never know with what they're doing. You never know what's going to happen.
Let's just see where they're playing at. They're playing at Packers. You got to win.
Well, that's what you would say.
6-2, 1-7.
But they broke their perfect streak, at home this season. So you know what? There's no invulnerability anymore.
All right. Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
That's that. On to
what did we get this week?
What did the boys get? And now with visuals. So once again, if you're listening to us, bump on over to YouTube because we're showing the comics we got this week. I'll go first. I guess I should say full disclosure. Dennis was a little too lazy to bring his books over.
Not lazy.
Well, it's raining torrentially outside.
Yes.
And he likes his books in mint condition, even though there's things called plastic bags. So he's just going to read his list, where I am going to show mine.
Normally I'll bring them, but I also had a stack that was this big for ketchup. I had a lot of stuff that came in.
He got a ton. My week was slim, so I got Green Lantern number 9, season 2 number 9, Grant Morrison, Liam Sharp. I love the writing. I really like the art. Liam's doing a lot of his own coloring now. The black and he does a lot of digital painting. This is really like a silver age throwback, even in regards to the cover. Liam kind of did a silver age motif on the cover, the flat coloring that was done. So I'm looking forward to reading that. Green Lantern, favorite character for DC. So I got that. This is the Virgin cover of the new Hellboy one-shot written by Mr. Mignola and drawn by Adam Hughes, fan favorite Adam Hughes. The title is The Seven Wives Club. I bought it because I love Hellboy and I love Adam Hughes' artwork. So you put those two together. Well, I'll buy anything Adam does. I did get Betty and Veronica 1 through 3.
Oh, did you?
Oh, yeah. It was a good... Well, Adam wrote that. We'll talk about that another time. But so I got this. Looking forward to reading this. Once again, I saw the very Virgin cover just showing Adam's black and white art, even though he colored the cover. I love black and white art. So I got that. And then because that was it, 2 books. I can't walk out with just 2 books. So generally when I go to the shop, when there's heavy weeks, I'll look at stuff and go, oh, I usually wouldn't get that book, but it's kind of cool.
Yeah, exactly.
But this is a really big week already, so I'll just remember it and put it on a list for next time. So I picked up Batman 101. It came off of, obviously, issue 100, which wrapped up a 6-part storyline. This is a one-and-done issue. I love stuff like that. So I picked this up. It's written by, James Tynion the fourth, art by, I'll mess his name up, Gilliam March, whose work I really enjoy. He also did the cover. So Batman 101 I picked up as well. So those are my 3 for the week. 2 technically and 1 from a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I had a lot of books that came in, Vampire, The Masquerade, the back issues that we had done, they had come in. So I got a nice stack. This week it was, of course, X of Swords is still going on. So the Marauders came out, the Excalibur came out, X-Men. They had X-Men Facsimile. Number 4 that came out for those of us that like the old Silver Age X-Men, which looked beautiful. I had to pick a copy of that up.
You own that real book.
Of course I do. But now I can open up the facsimile and enjoy it without opening up my other book.
That's true.
So, yeah, Wolverine came out, Taskmaster came out, and Darth Vader came out. So it's a pretty solid week. I've got a lot of reading. I've got a lot of catching up in my reading to do. So, it was a good, solid week for me. But I'm behind with me being gone for a bit here. So got a lot of reading to catch up to.
But one book that you did read, and I did too, that we're going to review, Fantastic Four, Antithesis.
Number 3.
3 of 4. 1 to go.
Yep.
So we're going to talk about this. As a recap, it's written by Mark Waid, drawn by the legendary Neil Adams, inked by who I call legendary Mark Farmer. He's been in the business for almost 40 years. Fantastic inker. Colored by a friend of mine, Laura Martin. She is fantastic, one of the best colors out there. This continues the Antithesis storyline where basically there's this new villain, Antithesis. He basically converts Galactus back to human form. This is our recap.
He's back to Gala. I mean, it's cool to see what he looks like in human form, because over the years, the decades that he's been brought into stories, you don't get to see him this way very often. We know what it is, and it's only been a couple of times. So this is actually really cool. The artwork, the thing that I keep coming back to, if you're a fan of old Silver Age comics, they went out of their way to make sure that this feels just like Silver Age comics. It looks and feels, I love it. It's kind of retro. And each issue has just been great. It's like taking a step through time with a little bit newer. The storyline has been solid. It started out amazing, and I think it's taken a bit of a dip. So it was interesting to see where this one was going to go. And the cool thing was, they have to reabsorb the what was it, dark?
It's like this dark energy. So basically in issue 3, Reed and Gala, Human Galactus, come up with this plan for the Fantastic Four to go out and kind of reabsorb this dark energy that Antithesis has kind of spread around. The cool thing is the Fantastic Four basically become Heralds of Galactus in this issue.
Yep, and it's cool. They reabsorb it. And he goes, I'm giving you the power cosmic, which, of course, we all know that's what the Silver Surfer basically and how they were all done. It's cool. It's really cool to see it. And it's just exciting to see what they're going to do with the power cosmic.
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to get into spoilers with it because, we'll just give you our overall review so you can read it and judge for yourself. I second what Dennis said about the visuals. I'm a huge Neil Adams fan. He was a big influence on my artwork. He still is. I said it about issues 1 and 2. I thought when I saw the solicitation back in the early part of the year for this, with Mark Farmer inking it, I was really overjoyed. I like when Neil inks his work, but Mark Farmer inking Neil, it really reminds me of those 2 issues of Thor that Neil did back in the 70s that Joe Sinnott inked. And Mark Farmer is definitely uh, uh, comes from that Joe Sinnott nice, slick brushwork school of inking. So seeing him ink Neil definitely gives it more of that Silver Age feel. And Neil's layouts are always dynamic. Mark Waid's on point with the dialogue. As usual, I mean, Mark loves the Fantastic Four. He's had, a number of runs on the Fantastic Four monthly book from years back. And you can tell he really loves it. The book ends with overall issue 3. I liked it. Issue 1 as a whole is still my favorite issue. Issue 2, it was good, but I still went back and was like, man, issue 1 just as a whole I really liked. I like issue 3. I like it equivalent to issue 2, so issue 1 still my favorite. The ending of issue 3, and we don't want to spoil it. The cliffhanger is just it's fantastic because the whole point of this issue is, I guess, recapturing this dark energy and getting it back to Gala so he becomes Galactus.
So the question is,
Again.
how do they do it? I mean,
Right.
that's what he and Rita have to come up with. Their solution is, should we say, very interesting.
Right.
And it's a beautiful splash page at the end. And we were both like, whoa, on the phone. Got to call and talk about this one because it was cool. It was a really cool ending. So now I've got these expectations because first one was way up here. It was phenomenal. And then 2 was solid. 3 was solid. But now they've just set the bar where I really want it to go back up. And I want it to finish with a big bang because they've now set the standard for it. So looking forward to seeing what they're going to do with it.
And I don't know if we covered this in a previous podcast, but it was released that they're going to reprint this series 1 through 4 as a trade paperback. And you're going, no, duh. They always reprint the limited series as trade paperbacks. However, they're doing this treasury size next spring.
I know.
So it's going to be that big treasury 10 by 13 or whatever size book collecting all 4 issues. So they already got me on the hook because I'll definitely be buying that.
And that artwork is so good that it's just going to be, again, we're going to own the issues, but I'm going to have to get the treasury just because the artwork being blown up like that is just fantastic. Very much looking forward to it.
So last night, Dennis and I had an outing. We went on a little adventure to the AMC.
The movie theaters.
The movies.
So good to get back to another movie.
Oh, it was nice too because there was like 8 people in the theater, and the 2 of us had a whole row to ourselves.
Yep.
So everybody was nice and spread out.
And we could make comments, and there was nobody turn around and go, shh.
Exactly.
Don't say that.
I mean, we're not that loud. We're not like Mystery Science Theater 3000 or anything.
No, but we could be.
So we went and saw new Kevin Costner flick. He stars in it with Diane Lane. Let him go.
Right. And when we saw the trailer, I'm like, it's Mon Pa Kent.
I know.
I was like, whoa, another movie that they've been in together. So we know him from Superman, Man of Steel. And, we've already talked what I feel about that movie. But I love those 2 in that movie. And I'm like, they've got good chemistry, and very excited to see it. It's not one of my typical type of nerdy, must-see sci-fi type movies. But as Kevin Costner's gotten older, he tends to play a really good crotchety old man or an angry cowboy or something along that genre. Well, he got to play basically a crotchety cowboy.
Well,
kind of melded the 2.
He's a retired sheriff. So
and a rancher.
We're not going to spoil anything. So we'll just give you the overall plot and stuff. So the plot is, like Dennis said, Kevin Costner's character is George Blackledge. His wife is played by Diane Lane. Her character is Margaret Blackledge. They live in
Montana.
It takes place in the 1950s, so it's not modern day.
Yeah,
which I got to say.
I'd say it's late 50s, early 60s.
No, it's 50s.
Oh, is
I
it?
didn't. Yeah,
Okay.
I ran the numbers in my old noggin when we were watching it because the movie starts off and they don't. I mean, you can tell by the vehicles and stuff and the clothing, you get a sense for the era. But then there's clues throughout the movie, and basically what happens is it starts off. They're at their home in Montana, in the middle of nowhere. You know, they own acreage, they have horses and whatnot.
A cool ranch.
Yeah, a cool ranch. And their son, their adult son, he's 25,
Only son.
only son, and his wife and their newborn baby boy live with them. And this isn't a spoiler. Their son has an accident and dies. And then and then from there it kind of jumps 3 years. And this is why I knew when the movie actually took place, because there's a scene that shows the gravestone for the son.
Oh,
And you didn't read it, apparently.
No, I
did.
was checking out all the gravestones.
It was his son was born in 36 and died in 1951.
Okay.
So if the baby was a newborn and now 3, the movie took place when?
Yeah.
1954.
All right.
Math is hard for Dennis.
Now you just got to see the clues. I missed that clue.
I'm a clue finder. So then their daughter-in-law, played by Kaylee Carter, who's really, really good in this movie, remarries, and they end up, well, what happens?
So they wind up getting married. They wind up the wife, well, her, the baby, and the new father. They wind up moving into town away from the ranch.
Yep.
And Ma Kent is very sad. You know, I'm going to say that through.
We're just going to call him Ma and
Pa Kent.
And Pa Kent.
Ma Kent is just, you know, she's very sad because she was very, very, very attached to the baby. And really, that's the only legacy left from their living son who passed away. So the tie is so deep in there that she's very, very sad. So fast forward, she goes to go visit her, makes a beautiful cake and everything, goes to visit him. And they packed up and moved out, and they don't know where. But a nice lady who lived downstairs said they packed up and went to move by his parents, but they don't know. They've never met him. They weren't at the wedding and stuff like that. Well, now it's a bit of a mystery. Where did they go? Well, she's a bit stubborn. Ma Kent.
Oh, Ma Kent. Let me tell you, she is stubborn, but what I actually got from it was, and I leaned over to Dennis and made a comment, she's just a very strong-willed woman.
Right.
You know, and I think there's a difference between, because somebody that's stubborn can just be annoying.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean they're strong-willed. That just means they're being pig-headed stubborn. Whereas she, Diane Lane's character, to me, just came across as very strong-willed, very independent. And I leaned over to Dennis at one point and was like, kind of reminds you of our wives, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. They're going to do what they're going to do.
Yeah.
They will ask, do you want me to do A or B? So I'll say, why don't you do B? Then she turns around and does A. Why do you even ask me? You're going to do what you want to do anyway, and you always do the opposite.
I mean, in the movie, Diane Lane's character has basically packed her clothes and made up her mind that she's going to go to North Dakota and find her grandson
and bring him home.
And she Kevin Costner comes home from, being out because he's a retired sheriff. So, they don't say where he was.
And he's on his ranch.
He comes back home to the ranch, sees that the car's all packed up, and walks in. And she's basically like, yeah, this is what I'm doing, whether you come with me or not. And I mean, what's he going to say? No, of course not.
Well, he does pull a little bit of a funny in there because, he goes, I suppose you're going to do it. And this is great because it kind of reminds me of my grandparents and stuff. Knew exactly what she was going to do.
Yeah.
She's going to do it regardless of what he says. So they're sitting there eating the soup that he made. She's telling him, and he's just sitting there. And he goes, have you considered the consequences? I'm the one who's going to be picking up the pieces when this is all done. And he knows where this is heading. He's already foreseeing it because of his time in the law enforcement. He knows where this is going to go. And he makes a couple of comments, but he's a man of very few words.
Yep.
She is a woman of many, many words.
Yep.
And she's got all the bark, he's got the bite. But when he does say something, she knows it means it. Even his subtle hints.
Here's what it reminded me of. So it was just like 25 years ago, my wife and I were living up in Syracuse, New York. And we played on a softball league, a co-ed softball league with some of her friends, my friends. Her sister was on the league. Point of the story is we were walking to the field, if I remember correctly, and some dude started yelling at us. And the guy's probably like your size, right? Mm-hmm. Height-wise and stuff. And he's yelling at it specifically this group of me, my wife, and her sister. And, so there's three of us, and there's this big dude. And I'm just thinking, you know what? It's something about a parking space or some BS thing. Doesn't matter. Point is, I'm just like, just let it go. Ignore it. Oh, no. My wife, who's all 5'2", turns around and decides to get up in this dude's grill. And her sister's right there with her. And just talking trash to this guy. And, basically, luckily, nothing happened. And, we went our separate ways, not agreeing, the three of us and this guy. But after he left and walked away, I looked at them both and I go, who do you think that guy was going to punch?
Not you two.
Yeah, he's not going to deck either one of you. He's not going to punch you two. He's going to punch the guy.
Yep.
So your mouths, and I'm standing there just trying to cool it down like, okay, it's not a big deal. Chill, because I don't want to get into a fight. I mean, I'm not a big dude now. Back then, I was like now I'm 5'10", and I'm like 175. Back then, I was obviously the same height, but I was like 145. And this dude is like, how tall are you? 6 what? You shrunk some.
I was 6'1".
Yeah.
Now officially I'm 6'3".
He dropped a quarter inch. That's what happens when you get old.
They're getting old.
So, and I'm like, yeah, what are you running your mouth for? In fact, this is the second time that happened to me. When I was going to the Kubert School, which is the art school I went to in the late 80s, early 90s. When I was attending the school, my freshman class, there was 100 students. And out of the 100 students, they broke it up into 5 classes. So there was 20 students per class. And the Kubert School back then, in the late 80s, was, I think, out of the total amount of students in the school, there was about a little under 200 students in the school. There was probably 4 girls going to the school. That's it, right?
Yeah.
And there was one in my freshman class. So we were out kind of walking around the town of Dover, New Jersey, just trying to get the lay of the land and stuff, right?
Oh, I know I can feel where this is going.
It's myself, 4 of my buddies, and the female student. I can't recall her name because she didn't come back after first year. But we basically were walking around Dover, New Jersey, and there's a basketball game going on, just a pickup game, no big deal. And we want to walk to the other side of the court. So, doing the right thing, because the game's going on, you don't walk across the court. You walk around the court.
Yep.
Well, we walked around the court. She walked through the court, right? So we get to the other side. She gets to the other side. And we're walking. And now the dudes that were playing basketball, there's like 10 of them, and there was like 5-on-5, are literally yelling at her, calling her names. And she turns around and starts running her mouth. Well, this is when and then one of the guys in the group, we all walk back towards her because we're not just going to leave her there because they're approaching her and stuff. And we're like, come on, let's just go, whatever. They should be running their mouths. And we're like, well, you did walk across the court. A fight did break out.
Oh.
And one of my buddies, my roommate, a guy named Tommy, actually got punched in the face and got a black eye. And we broke it up and stuff, and because it wasn't not all the players got into the fight. It was just one of the loudmouth players, and then my roommate happened to be a loudmouth guy, so they got into the fight. So we broke it up, went on our way. But once again, nothing happened to her. They weren't looking to punch her.
Well, now that story ties directly into this movie because the same thing happened because she cannot control herself. She's got a mouth on her. So they have to track down who the Wee Boy family is. And as they start finding out, when they get up to, they're in Montana, they get to North Dakota. Yeah. Now the scenery is stunning. I mean,
oh, it's beautiful.
So
I've never been out there, but now I so want to go out there.
Yeah,
talk about big sky country.
And I was just there a couple months ago. It's amazing.
It was breathtaking.
It is. So this is a visual movie where this isn't the kind of movie I would normally buy, but I actually really want to see this in 4K now. Some of the shots and stuff as they're driving, it would be just stunning. So they get out there, and you start finding out as they're asking questions. Well, we're looking for the Wee Boys. And as we find out, there's a reputation. And a lot of people have ties to the Wee Boys, and they're not exactly a friendly group. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say the Wee Boys, what they reminded me of is a clan that you'd see more in, like, say, West Virginia, Kentucky, something like that.
Yeah.
You know, they live out in the middle of nowhere. There's the mom, of the family, who's played by Leslie Manville, and she's Blanche Wee Boy, who she's amazing. She is amazing.
She is absolutely. So you've got the two matriarchs,
right? You got the
in
matriarchs.
The family, and one of them's a big mouth, right. And one of them is a big fist.
Yeah.
Yes. It's really, really good how those two wind up pairing off. And basically, it's all the men having to deal with the issues for the two headstrong women going forward.
Now,
it's great.
Another great actor in the movie who plays one of the sons is Bill Wee Boy, played by Jeffrey Donovan. And you're going, Jeffrey Donovan? Why does that name sound familiar? I was telling Dennis, he was in a show on, I believe, the USA Network called Burn Notice that has been off the air now for, I think, 4 or 5 years. It ran for 6 or 7 seasons. It's called Burn Notice because he played a burn spy. Bruce Campbell was in it. It was a fantastic show. I told Dennis, you got to watch it.
Yeah, it's not one I've ever seen.
Jeffrey Donovan is just a phenomenal character actor. And the funny thing is, he usually plays the handsome leading man. And in this movie, they didn't really change his look a lot. It looked like he did gain a little weight. I don't know if that's necessarily just with age. Because in Burn Notice, he was slim and shape. In this, he's just a little bit heavier. They definitely gave him, I would say, an appropriate haircut for the movie.
Yep.
For 1950s, living out in the middle of nowhere, North Dakota clan type thing, and not clan as in CLAN type thing. Well, I said that and I thought. Well, he's not a KKK member.
Well,
it's part of this family that's a clan.
Right. It is a period piece. So.
Because there's him, and then his 2 brothers. Well, 3 brothers. Well, no, 2 brothers, and then the new son-in-law, or
Donnie.
Donnie is a nephew. Is Bill Wee Boy, Jeffrey Donovan's nephew. So
you know what it reminded me of from the Ozarks, when they moved down there, and everybody knows each other, and they already know
and they know that reputation.
Yep, and it scares the hell out of a lot of people, and so they've got that reputation.
Even the sheriff in town in North Dakota, when you hear Wee Boy, it's kind of like, oh, yeah,
you don't want to.
You just get the impression because he doesn't come right out and say, don't deal with them, but you definitely get the impression like you shouldn't. And
this wasn't the local sheriff. This was a sheriff on the other end when they were trying to find him. He goes, I'll make some calls. But we know the name Wee Boy, basically saying just be careful. So they wind up having to go. They have their confrontation. So here's what we're going to talk. We got to talk a little bit about the pacing of the movie.
Yeah.
This is a very... in a good way, it's a slow burn. because it's a very slow movie. As
Yeah.
you know, one scene leads into another, and it's all important. But it's slow. This is not an action movie. The first half of the movie is more like a family drama. There's a lot of things going on.
Right.
Heartache in there. How do you overcome it? What happens? You're moving on. Once they take the son and take off and they have to go find him, it now becomes a bit of a thriller, kind of like Taken.
Yeah, it picks up. The pace, it's like Dennis said, the whole movie's a slow burn. But there are movies that are slow burns where when you're done, because the movie is 2 hours long, there are movies that when you're done, and what was Tarantino's from last year? The Hollywood one. What was it called?
Oh, I was thinking Hateful Eight, but
no, not
right.
Hateful Eight. Quentin Tarantino. I'm thinking of Quentin Tarantino's
The Brad
movie
Pitt one
from last year that had Brad Pitt in it and stuff. It dealt with the
It was also a slow burn
and all that. But here's the difference. That was a slow burn, but there were actually moments in that movie that I thought you could take this whole 20 minutes, chop it, throw it away. You wouldn't miss it, and you'd still get the point of the movie. In this movie, it's a slow burn, but everything is integral to the movie. There wasn't anything I saw.
They build on everything.
Right. There wasn't anything in Let 'Em Go that we saw or I saw that you could cut out. And there's flashback sequences as well to help with the character development.
But I was going to say, everything that they did in this movie was for character development.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Is that it?
That is.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
So everything is about character development,
Right.
and it builds on it. And you get to know the main characters, Ma and Pa Kent. You get to know the entire family. You start getting to know the wee boys, and they're all very important. Now, that's the one part where I never wish a movie to be too much longer. But if there was one thing I wish they would have done, the wee boys, they've got a reputation.
Mm-hmm.
You find out some of the basics about it, and you kind of know they're badass, but you don't really know a lot.
I would have liked to have seen more.
Give me another 15 minutes into this movie, and everything else is good, but focus in on the wee boys and some of the background that happened in there. Or as when they get to town, they meet a store owner and he talks a little bit about the wee boys.
They kind of did.
But very minimally.
Right.
I expanded for 15 minutes so we
there's a scene in the movie where basically the mother, the matriarch wee boy, Blanche, kind of does that. She does a lot of explanation about why the family settled where they're at, her deceased husband. But I agree. I think especially with Bill, wee boy, played once again by Jeffrey Donovan, I think if they would have shown just flashback stuff with him, because they already established the flashback stuff with Costner and Diane Lane. So if they did a little flashback stuff with why Bill wee boy.
Yeah.
Because he was definitely the more feared one.
And he lived in town. That was interesting because you could tell there's wee boys here and there, and they're like a little bit all over, and they're all intertwined a little bit. But, so I'm not saying that as a negative as they built in. I wish they would have had a little bit more. It was a slow burn. However, when these scenes it wasn't necessarily a ton of action. There was action in it, but the intensity was off the scale. It paid its dividends in how intense these scenes were. And you're just like, whoa! And you're waiting to see what was going on. It was great. There was no point in this movie where there were a couple of times I think, okay, I might get bored if they don't go somewhere. And then they went somewhere. So I was never bored in this movie. But when those payoff scenes came in, the intensity, it paid its dividends.
I'd say the first 2/3 of the movie, you were sitting back in your seat with your feet kicked up, watching it, taking in a great story. And then, like Dennis said, at the last third or even last quarter, the final act, it was edge of your seat.
Yes. The first half would almost be like one of those Hallmark Westerns.
Almost, yeah. I mean, we made a joke about that too in the movie because it could be. We're not going to spoil anything. So, but we will talk about stuff that was in the trailer. So if you watch the trailer, I don't consider that a spoiler because that's out there for everybody to see. So there's a scene in the trailer in a hotel room with Diane Lane, Kevin Costner, and they're being confronted by the Wee Boy clan. So you've got, Blanche the mother's there, Bill Wee Boy's there, Donnie Wee Boy's there, and then Marvin and Elton, the two other brothers, are there as well. And there's even a scene, once again, it's in the trailer, so not a spoiler, where the whole reason, just to back up real quick, the whole reason Diane Lane wants to go and get her grandson is because she witnesses Donnie Wee Boy, Donnie and Lorna, his wife, and the grandson are all out in town. This is before they moved to North Dakota, and she witnesses Donnie smacking the kid, and the kid's only 3, and then, backhanding and smacking his wife as well. And right there, she's just horrified because, before her son passed, obviously her son would never do that, blah, blah, blah. She wants to rescue the grandson. So then you cut to this hotel later on in the movie, and Blanche, Wee Boy, the mother's kind of like, is this true, Donnie? Did you strike your wife? Did you hit your wife? Oh, how hard did you do it? And
she slaps him.
And the mother, Blanche, slaps Donnie. And then looks at Diane Lane and is like, was it that hard? And Diane's like, no, it was a little bit harder. So once again, Blanche is like, whack, and slaps her son. What about that? And she's like, no, it was a little bit harder. And you think she's going to do it again, but instead, Blanche this time backhands Diane Lane.
It was awesome.
And it was great. And, Kevin Costner's being held back by the 2 other boys. And he, obviously his wife just got smacked and he's not going to take any of that. And that's when the intensity really heats up. And no spoilers.
And you just realize at that point,
there's
not going to be a happy marriage between these 2 families going forward. It is great excitement all the way to the end.
It just builds to a great crescendo.
Yes.
I always want to use that word.
Yep, and you successfully did.
I successfully, I word of the day through my Amazon device, who I will not name. So what will the word be next time? So anyhow, it does. It builds up to this great climactic ending. The title is so fitting because at first you're like, let him go. Let him. What the hell's... What's with the title? And then you realize that it's all about Diane Lane, really, and at first, her son dies. She's got to let him go.
Yep.
They reference in a flashback to she used to break in horses, and so they reference one of her horses, Strawberry, that had to be put down. Let him go, Diane. Let him go. And then there's even a scene where Kevin Costner is talking to her, basically trying to, because she's not thinking 2 steps ahead or 3 steps ahead.
She's always in the moment.
She's just in the moment.
Kevin Costner is always thinking ahead.
So Kevin Costner is basically playing out to her, okay, so we get the grandson, we take him back. Then what? Then what? Then what? And he's basically like, just let him go.
Yes.
Yes, it's your grandson. It's part of our son is right there. But what it really comes down to also is the mother is not a blood relation. That was their stepdaughter, or that was their daughter-in-law.
Yeah.
The new husband, no relation at all. And as hard as it sounds, and this is where I got to give it up to Kevin because it is really tough. But he's basically saying, look, we're old. And we're grandparents.
We're old. We can't do it. We have no legal standing to do this.
You basically want to kidnap this 3-year-old boy
from his actual
mother. And then what? We're going to raise him. We're going to go through all the school years again. We can't do that. We're old, and she's just not thinking it.
Nope,
so
she's right there in the moment. She's going to do what she's going to do.
As a good husband, he's got to be there to pick up the pieces. And we'll end the review this way before we grade it.
Yep.
The pieces, there are many.
This was a really good movie, so let's just do the reviews.
So we'll grade. You know what?
It isn't my normal kind of
we didn't grade this.
Review. Oh.
We forgot. So first-time viewers, which everyone is, we always give what we call a CGC grade. And the CGC is the grading system used by CGC when they slab comics. So we always give our CGC grade on book reviews and movie reviews. So before we give the CGC grade for Let 'Em Go, let's back up to Fantastic Four Antithesis #3 and CGC grade that one.
I gave it a 7.5.
Okay, so out of 1 through 10, Dennis goes 7.5. Closer to 10 you are, better it is. I'll agree with you on that one. We're usually right in the same ballpark, so I'll go with 7.5. I don't think we've ever give any book review a 10. I know we've gotten up to like 9.5, 9.7s, so 7.5. Now to Let 'Em Go. I'll go first with this one. On Let 'Em Go, man, we walked out of it, and I was really thrilled with it. You know, I told Dennis I really enjoyed it. He didn't seem to as much, and I'll let him explain that because he had a little change of heart, I believe. So my grade for this movie is, I'm going like 8.3. I really, really enjoyed this movie a lot more than I thought I would. I went into it because I love Kevin Costner. I loved him. I can't think of a dud movie. Okay, I take it back. Waterworld. That was bad.
Yeah, and The Postman.
Postman not good either. But I would
I
watch
agree.
that over Waterworld.
Now JFK.
JFK, Untouchables,
Dances with Wolves.
Dances with Field of Dreams. I mean, Kevin Costner just home run almost all the time. And when I saw him teamed up with Ma Kent, Diane Lane, I had to go see it. So, yeah, I'm going 8.3. I thought it was really good. I could easily see it again.
I would have been much lower. But I
Walking
said there,
out.
when I first walked out, I mean, it was great at the end, so it landed right. But the more I thought about it last night, you know, I was like, I really enjoyed, even though it was slow, I enjoyed the character building and the world building that they did. And I'm actually going to give it an 8.0 and say it was really enjoyable and it worth spending the money to go to the theater to see it. Yeah. Theater's not packed. It's a really enjoyable movie. There's no sex. There's not a lot of swearing of any type.
No.
It is a good movie. There's violence because obviously there's going to be a fair amount of violence when they deal with this. It's PG-13.
Yeah. No, it's R.
It is?
It's R. Remember the one scene?
Oh, yeah. I was like, there's no way it's R. Oh,
it's the violence.
Yeah, it's the violence.
Because I don't even think there's there's not much bad. I don't even think there's an F-bomb in the whole movie.
No, it was good, like I said, and it's for the violence at the end. So anyway, an 8.0. Go see the movie. You'll enjoy it, and I'd love to hear your comments.
Sweet.
Now, The Mandalorian Episode 2 came out.
Chapter 10.
Yep, and it was called The Passenger. And, you know, I heard a lot of I'm gonna call negative reviews about this for people that watched it right away.
Did you really?
And started posting, yeah.
Really?
And I was like, well, I was really bummed to hear that. Well, we watched it. I
can't.
I know they're upset because this was a one-off. This was a standalone that really had nothing to do with Boba Fett. I understand,
But to me, they're all one-offs that lead to the bigger picture.
Well, in this
because
one,
if you look at Chapter 9, it was a one-off.
In this one, it's basically going to be an entire season, one big story. People were not happy with it, and I mean, there were a fair number of them that were not happy with the way that went. I totally disagree after seeing it. I thought this was an absolutely fun episode all the way through.
And see, the thing is, for me, I don't get that. I didn't see any reviews about it like that, and part of it's probably because
I saw people posting.
That's what I mean. I didn't see any posting about it either. We watched it Friday, so the day it dropped, and I watched it with my daughter Courtney. She loves Baby Yoda. I mean, who doesn't?
Yeah.
See, I didn't see it as a one-off because, like Dennis said, there's the big picture that they're building to, like the quest that the Mandalorian is on and is taken from the first episode of season 2, chapter 9. I didn't see it as a one-off because of, what happened. And what happened is it's called The Passenger because basically he needs to take this alien if it's not a human, I call it an alien. So he needs to take this, what is it, frog-looking thing?
Yes, we'll call him a frog because he's like a frog man. She's a frog woman.
So basically, a frog woman with her eggs that are in this glass type container.
She's an endangered
liquid
species.
Container, and she has to go. He has to take her to her husband so the eggs can be fertilized, whatever. But the whole catch is he can't do it in. Is it hyperdrive?
Yeah.
Or what is it? It's hyperdrive.
Yeah. Well,
right?
they can't go into hyperdrive because it would destroy her litter.
Right. It would destroy the eggs. And he's like, whoa! If I can't go into hyperdrive, that means I can be tracked. I can be, stuff can happen.
Bad.
Yeah. So he can't go into hyperdrive, and a couple X-wing fighters get on his tail, and they basically contact him for a call sign and all that, which, from my understanding, he doesn't have. So he tries to pull a fast one.
Okay.
Right?
So there's a couple of
because I'm not into all the Star Wars lore, so I know X fighters and I know the basics. This guy knows.
So this was the fun part of the movie, just totally hilarious. So they got two X-wings that wind up coming up next to him, and they got one on each side.
Flank.
And they're like talking to him, like, "Hey, we need your transponder code, basically." And he's like, "Oh, yeah, I don't have a functioning one right now. Oh, well, we need this. Oh, I don't really have one of those either. Oh, okay. Well, you know what? What about this?" And the Mandalorian's just really cool, and he's just telling everybody, "Shh, just let me do the talking."
Yeah.
No, we okay. And then you hear me go, switch over to channel 2. And then you're sitting there, and the Mandalorian just looks, switch over to channel 2, and about 5 seconds later, you see both X-wings go. The X's fall out. They go into their X-foil attack mode, and he's like, "Oh no." He already knows he's screwed. They've made him. So all of a sudden, you see Mandalorian takes off in a ship, and they're both sitting there going, "Where does he think he's going in that?" And it was awesome.
They go down to an ice planet, right?
Yes.
An ice planet.
Yep.
And the Mandalorian invades them, but he also basically crashes.
Yep.
And there's a big hole in the ship. There's another scene there. Baby Yoda. He catches Baby Yoda he eats one of the frog lady's eggs.
Throughout the whole
and it's
show.
so cute. I mean, Baby Yoda's just cute.
He's just like, "No, you can't do that."
Yeah, Mandalorian's like, "Stop that. Yeah, he just does another one.
It's just awesome.
We're not going to spoil a ton of it. There's these great spiders on this plant, ice spiders you could call them.
They hatch from what look like white xenomorph eggs.
Yes.
That are laying down there, and Baby Yoda is of course eating one.
And then they hatch. It's
great.
all because of Baby Yoda. So there's a big fight with those spiders, and apparently I think I read online that those spiders were actually something that were going to be used in one of the earlier films.
I'm glad they used it.
I do like the callbacks where Favreau's bringing things in.
Yes.
From previous lore.
Yeah, I thought that was cool. There, the ship has a gaping hole in it.
She can't communicate because the frog lady can't communicate. So she wires up Zero. This was great.
Yeah.
And then Zero comes up on there, and that's, again, from IT Crowd, Richard Ayoade. That's his voice on there again. So he comes back in there. And so she's able to communicate with him and letting him know how important it is that she survives because she's the last of her species. All of this great stuff winds up happening. And my favorite scene, and this is where, again, Jon Favreau does some really cool stuff. The X-Wing pilots, we're not going to give it away, but they wind up saving the day. But you see them sitting in their X-Wing with their cockpits open, saving their butts. And then you kind of recognize them. So the first one is Dave Filoni. So he's one of the showrunners. Yep. So he makes an appearance as an X-Wing pilot. And then my wife and I both started laughing. Because Paul's son, Hyung Lee, is actually the other one who's talking to him. And we're like, it's Appa from Kim's Convenience.
That was Appa.
That's Appa.
That was. That's right.
Oh,
Kim's
you missed
Convenience.
that.
I did miss that. Well,
Because
I
got
was
his helmet
looking at him.
on.
Yeah, I was looking at him going, why does he look so familiar? But, Kim's Convenience, which is a hilarious show on Netflix, he's Korean. So in that show, he actually doesn't have in real life a thick Korean accent. But in the show, Kim's Convenience, he does. Anyhow.
Yeah,
So in
that was him.
Mandalorian, he obviously didn't. And that's why I could recognize the face, but I couldn't picture.
My wife and I, as soon as
Oh
he
my
had
God.
us started talking, we're like, Appa!
Oh
It
my
was
God, that's
so
awesome.
great. It was great. He plays the captain of the X-Wing squadron.
Yeah, so it's episode 2 I thought was better than 1. I don't want to even tell you the ending because I thought the ending, and I'm not even talking the ending where they fight off the spiders and how they get out of that. Just we'll just leave it with the Mandalorian is able to get his ship off planet, back into space, back on the voyage to take the passenger, but you just have to watch it. It was so good. I thought it was actually right up there with Chapter 9, if not better. And I say that, and we're going to give it our review score. I don't remember. I keep saying I need to write down what I give reviews because I might review it lower by a point or so, but I think it was right up there.
So what do you give this one?
Oh, I give this one a 9, just a flat 9. I mean, it is. I love the Mandalorian. It's so good.
So, and that's just funny because that's exactly. It's a near mint minus. It's a 9 in my book. I like the first Chapter 9 a little bit better, but this was a fun episode that you get to see a little bit less of the serious side of the Mandalorian.
Yes.
And it just played very well. And yes, I do already get the fact that some of you are saying it didn't have a lot to do with the Boba Fett storyline. Not everything does because they're on their way to it. This is what's happening in it to the next piece. So I'm willing to give that a pass because I'm sure they're going to do it justice. So yeah, I'm giving this a 9-0. Love the Mandalorian. Disney's finally got something that they're doing right now.
And before we leave, let's just see if there's any other quick news that we want to touch on. I'm just looking through a site.
We did go through the movies and stuff and trailers, and there really isn't a ton of new movies that look like it's coming out. So our movie reviews for the in-person stuff will be a little sparse just because there's not a lot coming out. So try and go to your theaters, see them. They're not very packed. We really want some of our theaters to stay in business right now because they're suffering.
And we will have a new review next week for, I believe the movie is called Freaky. Let me just do a double check on that.
Freaky is one that we've been looking. Yeah, we've been looking at.
Freaky.
Waiting for it to come out.
Freaky comes out this Friday. We'll be checking it next week so we can review it for you. The deal with Freaky is it's a takeoff on Freaky Friday, except instead of a mother and daughter switching bodies, it is a deranged serial killer played by Vince Vaughn swaps bodies with a high school girl.
It looks good.
And it looks great. Good. So, check out the trailer for Freaky. We're going to catch it and we'll review it on next week's show. So until then, thank you for joining us on our inaugural, another big word I used properly. That's right. Inaugural visual episode. This is how we plan to do them from here on out. So until then, you can check us out on iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube, and you know the other one. Don't say the name.
All the devices.
That's right.
From your Amazon.
We don't want to wake mine up. So until then, bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.